That's all I'm saying. The band, though, just saying.
Well, if you would lower your standards to include Canadians.
And welcome back. We are Rough Draft Research. You are the audience. We are on a mission of Dynasty domination. What's up, boys?
Hey.
What up?
You
Howdy.
made it. I'm so glad you made it. Because it's Christmas time, baby. It's
What?
the green and red part of the bracket. Sweet 16. Let's go.
Let's hear them sleigh bells jingling.
Ring ting tingling.
That's right. And only to be fair, we'll start with the green bracket. And as we always do, we're going to talk about who didn't make it through the round of 32.
It's a sad day.
Yeah, man. And this isn't as sad as some of the last ones, but we got Zach Kuntz, tight end, didn't make it. Xavier Hutchinson, wide receiver, got beat. Devon A-Chain, feisty little dude, couldn't get feisty enough to make it to the Sweet 16. And then A.T. Perry, the jury's still out. Nobody knows about this guy. Could be something, but he's not going to be in the Sweet 16. So without any further ado, we're going to jump right into what we do. This matchup is the one that we've all been waiting for. Number one, Bijan Robinson up against number 4, Jordan Addison. These are some serious guys that have had some serious hype for quite a bit of time. But it's just the world we live in. Bijan wins.
Yeah, for sure.
Not even a chance to compete for Jordan Addison, wide receiver, USC. This guy is just over the age of 21. I think we all know a little bit about him as a Biletnikoff winner in 2021 when he played for Pittsburgh. He is 5'11", 173, and he's sporting a 4.49 40 time and some abysmal combine workouts that buried him in the field at a burst score of 37th percentile. So nothing to write home about. Kind of sad, but yeah, I gave him the what for after seeing this combine. I got a little confused after being pretty excited about the guy, and it took me a while to come around on him, but here we are. I'm going to give him a fair chance on this evaluation, and why not? You know, he had the 6th most receiving yards per game in the Pac-12 on a team that was 2nd in yards per game. So he's a pretty productive guy. Coming out here with 8 touchdowns, 59 receptions, and 875 yards. So fairly productive season. Not nearly as productive as what he did to win the Biletnikoff, and that was 17 touchdown season, even 100 catches, and 1,593 yards working with Mr. Kenny Pickett. And a lot of that work was out of the slot. The guy was pretty much unstoppable in the ACC. You know, he was given the workload like the maximum that he could ever have hoped for. And so when he, joined the great USC migration of 2022, he ended up with a little bit lower target share, and thus the statistical outcome was also hampered. So I don't want to say that he really had any lower efficiency because he still had 15 yards per catch. He was just limited to, 60% of the receptions, and he played on the outside. He didn't play in the slot as much, so he had to play a different kind of a role. And I thought he was really successful. And I like to see that, one guy, a successful slot year, successful year on the outside. So how does he do it? How does he transition? I don't know. I got 2 words to describe this guy, and I'm going with tough and technical. So as I mentioned, he is 5'11", 173, and I'm not going to call him small or light or anything like that, because when you watch him play, he's hard, man. You know, he does screens, jet sweeps, and he muscles through coverage pretty good. He blocks pretty well, and I think he's pretty much fearless. He even breaks tackles. Wow, it's impressive stuff. So I don't think his slight frame is really a detriment to him, so I'm not going to put any of those adjectives to give it a negative connotation, because he's almost 6 foot tall. He's got the reach. He plays pretty well. And then one thing that I really like about him, in addition to being, you know, fairly average lengthiness or height, I guess you could say, is he really adjusts to the ball really well, like extremely well. So he just positions himself to make catches outside of his frame. And yeah, there were a few balls that kind of almost looked catchable that he just couldn't reach. But I can't blame him for that. I don't think he's undersized. I kind of gave him a hard time for running a 4.5, only weighing 173 pounds, but I'm over that. And the main reason I'm over it is because the dude is extremely technical. He's laser focused, and he's got them crisp typewriter toes at the line of scrimmage. He sets up his routes really well, extremely consistently, and at a high level. His deep routes have subtlety and variation and nuanced moves that just give him reliable separation down the field. His footwork with the ball in his hands gives him that yak multiplying ability, and he makes guys miss, and he really has pretty good command in the open field. So all those things make you excited about him. But it's a seamless combination of these skills and the execution of them with the awareness and his aggressive play style and toughness. And when I say aggressive, I don't mean like physically aggressive. I mean like he's aggressive with his confidence and his abilities to execute, and he doesn't hold back at all. And he doesn't really accept not making a play or not getting open. So he fights through adversity, I guess you could say, to make things happen. And a great example of that was this game versus Utah, and they played them twice, so I'm talking about the first time. He was up against Clark Phillips, who is the 9th highest coverage graded corner in the Power 5, and he really showed perseverance because Clark Phillips is a pretty physical guy, and he was able to win through that kind of a strong, aggressive play style. I think he ended up with about 100 yards that game. And he was made the focal point of that offense in that game. So it was nice to see when he was challenged, they didn't go away from him. They made him kind of make it work through that. But a few different ways that happened was a lot of motion, a few reverses. He had carries out of the backfield. And it was just kind of nice to see a guy with that kind of measured speed of a 4.5 have consistent success on reverses. You normally think of like super fast guys having that kind of success, but he was able to do it with the speed he has, which I think he's pretty damn quick, man. Like, I guess I shouldn't call 4.5 unimpressive. I'm over that. I had a stint of being disappointed, but I'm back. I'm back on Addison. The way he runs his routes are just incredible. He has a huge variety as far as deep routes, crossing routes, you name it. He can do it. Like I said, he did in the slot with Pitt. So I think he's a really, really well-rounded player. And he's not the most athletic, and he's not the fastest. But I think he has kind of like the heart of a champion, and it's on full display. And just his technical ability and his ability to consistently win by producing high-level execution is going to make him a pretty solid fucking dude. Straight up.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think he's probably the best route runner in the class. And that's what he uses to get open. That's how he gets his separation. But you're right. I mean, he's like the top end speed isn't there, but it doesn't seem to hurt guys like Keenan Allen or Devontae Adams that they ran even worse than Jordan Addison. So like I think there's an ability there, but then on the same side of that coin though, we're still waiting on Rashad Bateman to
Well,
pop for the same exact reasons. Like he was the best route runner that year, potentially. Now I got to remember who else in that class, but whatever. Breezing on past that, like there's a chance that it doesn't necessarily work. But like you're saying, guys that are technical, guys that know how to get open despite not being the most athletic, despite not being the fastest, those are the guys that are really intriguing to me. So I'm in on Addison. Obviously, like he doesn't win here, but I really like Addison. I think like him and Zay Flowers and JSN are like the three guys I have as like the 1A, B, C type guys. Like I think they all are really, really good at different things. And I'm really intrigued to see like where Addison ends up landing.
yeah, I think, man, I keep spying him at Green Bay. So
That'd be cool. I'd be okay with that. I think JSN fits a little more in my idea of what Green Bay needs, but I would be very, very happy with Addison as well. Moving on, though, let's get into a tight end and quarterback matchup. We've got tight end Dalton Kincaid, our number 6 seed, going up against CJ Stroud, quarterback out of Ohio State, the number 2 seed. And this one was close to me. This one was really, really, really close. I gave it to Stroud because we're in a super flex. I think it was really close. What do you think?
yeah, I really struggle with this one. I'm glad you gave it to Stroud. I think that's going to make sense looking back.
Yeah, and like I absolutely love Kincaid. I love Stroud though as well, and then you lean super flex. But I'm gonna be honest with you guys. This might have been the most fun I've ever had watching tight end tape. I am in love with Dalton Kincaid. He's 6'4", 246 pounds. He's a bit older, 23 and a half years old. Going to be hitting like 24 in his rookie year. That's not great. Not as bad for a tight end necessarily. Still not great though. Last year he had 70 catches for 890 yards, almost 13 yards a catch, 8 touchdowns. He's a really good blocker, not like Darnell Washington levels of good, but he's a good, solid blocker. Not afraid of blocking either is the thing, and that's really important because even if you're not necessarily the top tier blocker, being not afraid of it shows that you're willing to improve and willing to kind of work in the offense. So he's not afraid of contact, even though he's a little bit smaller for a tight end. I don't say this a lot about tight ends, but I think his route running is really, really good. Like he's really, really strong at getting open. And to be honest, his only 2 downsides to me are the fact that he's undersized for a tight end in the NFL and he's older for a rookie. But that's it, because my man is just smooth. Like he never looks out of place. He looks like he's always exactly where he needs to be, just waiting on the ball to end up in his lap. Against Oregon, he literally tripped off the line. They like started running around. He tripped, fell right on his face. The defender jumped over him to avoid him tripping. And what does Kincaid do? Just roll up, pop up, immediately ready, like nothing had even happened. Caught the ball, 17-yard gain, first down. Just nothing phases this kid. Like it doesn't matter. Honestly, that Oregon game on a whole, just go watch that game. It's an incredible film to me. 11 catches for 99 yards, no touchdown, but that is the smoothest and most like the best 11 catches for 99 yards is ever going to look, in my opinion. He just looks great. Oh, and then just for a laugh, go watch him drop 16 catches for 234 yards on USC. Like that's just silly. And I think he played better in the Oregon game. Like this guy, I don't know, man. Against USC, they were using him as like a pseudo wide receiver almost. It was like watching slow Jordy Nelson at times. Like he's catching catches on the sideline, keeping 1 foot in bounds, doing like little breaking routes over the middle to being wide open. Like this, he just pops. Like he's all over the tape. and he's in absolute control of his body when he catches the ball. He's just always available to catch. And then as soon as he catches it, he has this ability to just slip the first tackle like it's nothing. Like he literally just catches it and just moves, and the first guy almost always misses, and he's always picking up yards after the catch. He had 16 forced missed tackles. That was third for tight ends. 6 deep catches. That was second for tight ends. 9 contested catches. That was sixth for tight ends. And he did all that with only 2 drops. I'm really into this guy. Obviously, you have the fears, undersized tight end that plays physically and is able to get yards after the catch. Does that translate when he moves over to the NFL when guys are bigger, guys are faster? He didn't necessarily blow anybody away athletically. He's kind of like not the top tier, but he's definitely athletic. But he just understands the position and plays it at a level that I think people like dream of playing it at. Now, again, is it going to translate? I have no idea. But I genuinely think, like, at this point, I like Kincaid more than, like, Michael Mayer, more than Laporta, more than Washington, more than all these guys. And, like, call me crazy, but I just had a ton of fun watching his tape.
Yeah, no, it doesn't look like a tight end.
No.
It's pretty incredible. I watched that Oregon game, and it was a lot of fun. But I have to admit, man, I couldn't pay attention in the second half. I was watching Christian Gonzalez because
that's right.
That's pretty badass too.
Yeah, he is sick.
But yeah, I mean, they had their way with USC this year, and it was funny.
Silly.
And looking up, I talk about like how guys rank within their own conference, and this is a guy who had more receiving yards than freaking Jordan Addison. So it was a narrow margin, only 15, but like that's got to tell you.
Counts.
That's got to tell you what you're dealing with here. So yeah, he's a badass. I still have Mayer number 1, but that's just me. But yeah, he is not a traits projection. He is a fucking real ass receiving
He's a player.
tight end, man. And he's gonna kick some ass and take some names. So with that said, the green bracket is offering 2 Elite 8 members in CJ Stroud and Bijan Robinson.
Oof.
So, and man, that guy just be Robinson. He's taking care of business. So let's move on to the other side of this Jingle Bell showdown with the red bracket. Fellas who didn't make it into the Sweet 16 are going to be Rashee Rice. You got Luke Musgraves, Cedric Tillman, what up? And Rashawn Johnson. So, what the heck? His name is not Rashawn Johnson.
No, Roshan Johnson.
Roshan Johnson. There you go. So, now that we're looking at our matches in the Sweet 16, we started out with Bryce Young, number 1 here, up against Chase Brown, number 4. And the ones have it, no upset here. Obviously, you just gotta trust it. I think we're all a little hungover from that quarterback class last year, getting a little high on hope.
Weak sauce.
When it comes to the quarterbacks this year, now that we got some real dudes in there. So yeah, Chase Brown takes the L, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, man.
Unfortunately, but yeah.
It is unfortunate. So yeah, Chase Brown, he is out of the Illini, University of Illinois. He is a little bit older than the rest of this class. Let me see. I believe he's 23 years old right now, and that's due to kind of a slow start. Started out with Western Michigan, and then after his freshman year, he transferred over to the University of Illinois and didn't really get an immediate role with them. So, yeah, you got to look at older running backs as always kind of a head scratcher. But once you get past that caveat, it's all aces for him. He's 5'10", 209, and he owned the combine. Like, he just owned it. He was the top vert in the running back class with 40 inches, the top broad jump with 10 foot 7 inches, top bench press 25 reps, and then he was top 5 in the 40 with a 4.43. So burst is 95th percentile. Oof. And he is coming across as a bad man. So you mess with that, pair it with the production that he had, And it's like, here we go, let's start building empires.
Mm-hmm.
Let's get into 2021. It wasn't really a banger year, but he did have good production. He had 170 attempts for 1,000 yards, and it was 5.9 yards per carry. But the usage was sporadic. In games where he had over 18 carries, he finished with 257 yards, 223 yards, and 147 yards. So when he got the usage, he was effective. So he rolled that straight into the 2022 year. He was given the consistent volume, and it ended up that he didn't have any games under 19 carries, and he didn't have a single game under triple digits total scrimmage yards. So he really got worked hard, and it came across. He had 1,643 yards, leading. That was the leading college workload for rushers, I believe. And then, he had the most plays from scrimmage, with 355. But yeah, over 1,600 yards on the ground and 27 catches for 3 scores and 240 yards. So pretty impressive. He didn't lead the Big Ten because of Muhammad Ibrahim. He had more yards than that. But these guys getting these 320 some carries in a year, it's just insane. So he got utilized in a huge way, and it worked. It was extremely successful. He had 5 yards per carry, and when you have that kind of workload, it's just going to turn into straight magic. And the way he was successful was he was patient, man. He let run lanes develop, and he had the ability to make quick corrections and adjustments fluidly behind the line to set himself up for nice gains. And as a pass catcher, he caught 90% of his 30 targets, so he's extremely efficient. And once he got past the first level, he was really loose, jittery, had great movement, and he used his burst and speed to power through contact, leading to 83 missed tackles forced, which was pretty high number. I believe that's number 2 in this class behind Bijan. And then he had a healthy 935 yards after contact. Now, if you put that in per attempt numbers, since he had so much production, it's really 2.8 yards per attempt. So it's not as impressive, but that's a majority of his workload. So he was still breaking tackles and making things happen. Obviously running away with that 4.43 speed. But I think he does run upright a little bit, and he's got some really bad misses as a blocker on film. Like you just sacked the dude while I tapped you as you ran past me kind of things. So
good job, man. Go get him.
Yeah, he's that way. But and then not all games were pretty, even in productive games. Sometimes he struggled to get through the line of scrimmage, heavy boxes with that kind of usage. They saw him coming, and sometimes you could see that hindering him a little bit. But the real issue I saw with Brown is the yardage doesn't necessarily mean anything. I'm watching the game against Minnesota, and it's in the fourth quarter. The score is 23-14, and a graphic pops up that says Minnesota total yards 170-ish. Illinois total yards over 450. So just because he had the yardage doesn't necessarily mean that he was successful. In that game, he had 41 carries for 180 yards, and his only score was on a 40-yard pass in the first quarter. So if you have 328 carries, over 1,600 yards, and you only scored 10 touchdowns, it tells me that you're not getting it done in the red zone. And I saw a lot of that on the film. Of his 10 touchdowns, 2 were at the 1-yard line, 1 was at the 5-yard line. Not a lot of it was pretty. It was kind of rough to watch the red zone stuff. On his scoring plays, his average per play was 13 yards. So that is what it is. That's the Chase Brown summary. Like, dynamic, athletic, promising, but not top tier, not top tier. So
yeah, I just think he's kind of gonna be like an average role player, Chase Brown, maybe above average role player. I think, but the problem with him is if he had an average combine, I don't know that we're even like discussing him right now, which is awesome because it's kind of confirmed that he deserves to be in the NFL and he's earned a spot through that combine. But like, he wasn't a name on everybody's list before that, which is, again, we talk about these guys that show up all the time. We're going to talk about one who exploded and is super athletic here in a second, but it just doesn't always translate to like being a consistent fantasy guy that you can build a team around, which is where I fall on Chase Brown, unfortunately.
Yeah, gotta agree with that. But man, I'm not gonna hold you up. I know what you're about to talk about. Let's do it.
All right, let's do it. So we'll get into the final matchup of the Sweet 16 in the red bracket. We've got number 3 seed going up against Zay Flowers, the number 2 seed. Woo! Really close, really tough. I'm gonna give it to Flowers. I know that's not what I think Dan necessarily feels, maybe, but I'm gonna give it to Flowers. I do really love Abanikanda, though. How are you feeling?
I love him so much, but we have to plant flowers on that Sweet 16 grave. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
so
for sure.
I'm not going to argue with you on this.
It's a sad day. But all right, so we'll get into it. Israel Abanikanda, you've been hearing his name a lot. Running back out of Pittsburgh, 5'10", 216 pounds, super young, not even 21 years old. That is a huge feather in his cap because he has a lot of time to produce. 239 attempts last season, 1,400 yards. 6 on the average, 20 touchdowns on the ground, as well as 1 through the air. Athletic marvel, man. At his pro day, he ran a 4.39. That's adjusted to a 4.44, which has still got him in the 90th for speed score. He's in the 90th for 40 score, 93rd for speed score, and he's in the 97th percentile for burst score. Just that size and speed combination, 216 pounds coming at you at 4.44 or 4.39, depending on who you want to trust, is a massive amount of weight coming at you pretty quickly. And like I said, he's really, really young. Not a ton of negatives necessarily. Only 1 year of like elite production, which is always kind of a red flag. He's not like the most elusive guy ever in terms of like just forcing tackles. I mean, yards per contact or yards after contact per attempt, he was only at 2.7, which was like 133rd in the NCAA. He only had 46 missed tackles, which was 46th. And missed tackles forced per attempt was even more abysmal than that. It was 0.19 missed tackles per attempt, which had him 117th. So he's just not like consistently making people miss, but oh boy, does he have home run ability. This guy with that size and speed combination, it's going to kind of contradict what I just said, but he has the size to be able to just like run through arm tackles like they're just absolutely nothing. Like the speed and size at which he runs, he just like goes through those guys. It's like they don't even exist. And he legitimately has the chance to take every single time he touches the ball to the house. Like, without a doubt, he can find the tiniest little hole, and that's what I really appreciate about him as well. I think he has really, really good vision and ability to sneak through the tiniest holes. Like one of my favorite runs that he had was against Tennessee on the 30-yard line, just a normal little handoff, just like handed it to him. He hit the middle and snuck in between this like lineman blocking here, both defenders are like coming in, and he just like kind of went through and went out sideways almost and just kind of popped out the other side of that hole, and then it ended up being a first down, like 12-yard gain. I know that's not like a highlight making play, but to me that's the type of shit I like. Like you get through this tiny littlest hole that you were able to get through, and you use the rest of your skill set to make that a first down. That's what I want out of my running backs. Then he followed it up with an absolutely beautiful outside catch that he took for like 13 yards and just ran a dude over at the end of it. That was awesome, which is something I want to see more out of him. that is kind of the problem. It's almost like he doesn't know that he's 216 pounds running at 4.39 because that's going to be hard to stop. And he seems to try and more like slice around people or kind of avoid people or like get to the outside more than he does just run over somebody. And I think he would have way more success at that if he tried. And the other thing is in the NFL, everybody's going to get a little faster. Everybody's going to get a little bigger. Everybody's going to get a little stronger. So if you rely completely on one thing in the NFL, you kind of become this one trick pony and it doesn't work as much. So he needs to round out that game. The upside is it's not like he's this fast guy that doesn't have the size to be physical. He just needs to really learn how to be more physical. And if he can do that, the sky is the limit for Abanikanda. And then I would have brought it up in his weaknesses because he didn't have a ton of receiving work, 12 receptions for 146 yards and 1 touchdown last season. I think those numbers are slightly skewed because when he catches the ball, he looks great. Like he has the explosive ability to be able to take these running back routes and take them to the house and be really effective there. It's just that the Panthers didn't pass that often. They ran the ball 40 times a game. They threw the ball 30 times a game. So they're already running 10 more times than they're passing. And then they were only completing 17 passes on average a game. So now you're only throwing it 30 times, completing a little more than half. There's just not as much opportunity for a guy like Abanikanda to get a lot of work in the passing game. So I'm not really necessarily worried. Like he definitely needed, like it would have been cool to see him have more production in the receiving game, but I don't really think that it's like his fault necessarily. I think if he goes to the right spot, they will be able to use him in the receiving game just fine. PFF has him projected as like a sixth round pick, and I just disagree. Like I just flat out disagree with that. I think he's at worst a 4th round pick, maybe even a 3rd. I think he could end up in the right spot. He may not be like a year 1 guaranteed starter or like producer right out the gate, but this is the type of guy that if he develops his game, he could be a 3-down back in a heartbeat. I like him a lot.
Well, yeah, man. I mean, you like him, and I fucking love him, man. And what are we seeing that they're not seeing? I'm with you, man. I'm looking at my old notes from like 2 months ago, and it's like, yeah, it was punishing that the quarterback didn't even look his way. He was running beautiful routes, wide open, did great shit when he did get passed to. And like you're saying, man, like I put here that when I watched him, I thought I was watching an undersized back, and I was shocked when I saw the size. So like he has potential to use some of that burst of power to expand his game even further. And something I always love to talk about, that was 20 rushing touchdowns, but he's averaging 22 yards per scoring play. So like big home run hitter, just really wild once he gets loose. So a 6th round pick, like that's if that happens, like that's gonna be people are gonna be talking about that for a long time because this dude is a steal.
Yeah, I agree with you. And then I forgot to even mention this on the facts of him being like a home run hitter. He's also shown that he's a workhorse, bro. Like he was getting so many carries this season and just like dominated. Only four games this past season did he have less than 20 carries. In only 2 games did he have less than 100 yards. And one of those games, his worst game of the year, the very next game, he came out and dropped 320 yards and 6 touchdowns on Virginia Tech.
Yeah, baby.
So like this guy, like he does it all. He's not just a home run hitter. He can absolutely be a workhorse. Not that you were saying that he was. I forgot to completely mention how much he runs the ball. Like I'm with you. I don't know what everybody else is missing, or maybe we're just bad. I don't know. But like I think he's gonna be good. Maybe not right away, but I think he ends up being like a steal somewhere.
Well, get your late first, boys, while you still can. Blood in the water. So that leaves us with the big Elite 8 matchup from the red bracket, going to be Bryce Young against Zay Flowers. So it's going to be pretty nasty next week.
8.
Yes, sir.
Elite 8. dogs. Just get it. Come get it.
Rough.
Come get it. Rough draft research.
Okay,
got
thank
it.
you.
There
Got
it is.
I was trying to.
Whew. Anyway, boys, you know we get heated when we get started talking about our passionate rookies. So with that, I need to go take an ice bath.
Power nap.
Something like that.
Hey, we ain't turning on the AC.
There's no AC in my house. We have windows.
You don't want the breeze on the mic. All right, later.
Peace.